A new video just came out appearing to show a group of 15 Palestinian medics and first responders intentionally targeted and killed by Israeli forces in the Gaza Strip. Now we're going to play the entirety of that video here, unedited, and prepare yourself because it is a bit graphic in terms of what you can hear. And then we're going to run through what we know so far as it relates to this incident. Now, as a little bit of background, on March 31st, UNRWA accused Israel of killing some of their aid workers in the Gaza Strip. To that, the IDF spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Shoshani, responded, quote, "The IDF did not randomly attack an ambulance on March 23rd. Let me walk through what happened step by step. Last Sunday, several uncoordinated vehicles were identified advancing suspiciously towards IDF troops without headlights or emergency signals. IDF troops then opened fire at the suspected vehicles. Earlier that day, cars did not belong to terrorists, were coordinated and passed safely on the same route." And with that background, let's go ahead and play this video in its entirety. Again, prepare yourself. It is a bit graphic.
هي مرمين 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 بسرعة بسرعة. هذا الشيء أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. سامحونا 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 سامحونا. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. يا رب تقبلنا يا رب. يا رب إني أتوب إليك وأستغفرك يا رب. يا رب إني أتوب إليك وأستغفرك. يا رب سامحونا يا شباب. يا رب يا رب إني أتوب إليك. يا رب يا رب تقبلني شهيدا يا الله وتب علي. يا رب تقبلني وتب علي. يما سامحيني يما. هذه هي الطريقة اللي اخترتها يما، إني أساعد الناس. سامحيني يما. يما سامحيني والله ما قبلت هذا الطريق ذا لساعد الناس. يا رب تب علي. يا رب إن كذبتني من الشهداء تقبلني. يا رب أنت يا رب أعرف إن أنا مذنب قاطع في صلاتك. تقبلني يا رب. يا رب الناس. يا رب تقبلني يا رب. يا رب لا حول ولا قوة. استغفر الله وأتوب إليك. اجعلنا من الذين في السماء بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض وهو السميع العليم. يا الله السيارة طزقت السيارة. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. طزقت السيارة. الله أكبر. الله أكبر كبيرا. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله. لبيك اللهم لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر كبيرا. الله أكبر كبيرا. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر كبيرا. لا إله إلا الله. الله أكبر. أجل يهود.
All right, so of course that video and all of these articles and statements will be linked in the description below if you'd like to look into them further. But we're going to go ahead and move over to the New York Times article outlining this series of events titled, quote, "Video shows aid workers killed in Gaza under gunfire barrage with ambulance lights on." They say, quote, "A video recording discovered on the cell phone of one of the paramedics, who was found along with 14 other aid workers in a mass grave in the Gazan city of Rafah in late March and obtained by the New York Times, shows that the ambulances and fire truck that they were traveling in were clearly marked and had their emergency signal lights on when Israeli troops hit them with a barrage of gunfire." I think from the video that we all just watched, it's pretty clear that emergency lights are on. They say officials from the Palestine Red Crescent Society said at a news conference on Friday at the United Nations, moderated by the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, that they had presented the nearly 7-minute recording to the United Nations Security Council. Israeli military spokesperson Lieutenant Colonel Shoshani said earlier this week that forces did not randomly attack an ambulance, but that several vehicles were identified advancing suspiciously. We read that statement a moment ago, and we'll come back to it here shortly. The article says the president of the Palestine Red Crescent Society and his deputy told reporters that the evidence that the society has collected, including the video and audio from the incident and forensic examination of the bodies, contradicted Israel's version of events. They say it took 5 days after the rescue of the vehicles came under attack and fell silent for the United Nations and the Red Crescent to negotiate with the Israeli military for safe passage to search for their missing people. On Sunday, rescue teams found 15 bodies, most in shallow mass graves, along with the crushed ambulances and vehicle marked with the United Nations logo. Now, to expand this out a bit from the New York Times article, there's a couple other sources that I wanted to run through here, starting with the initial accusation coming from UNRWA. They published a post on March 31st that says, quote, "Devastating to confirm the deaths of 2 additional UNRWA colleagues and 8 Palestinian Red Crescent aid workers and first responders. The body of our colleague killed in Rafah was retrieved yesterday, together with the aid workers from the Palestine Red Crescent Society. all of them discarded in shallow graves, a profound violation of human dignity. These were humanitarian workers. And then to this, we have the IDF spokesperson, Lieutenant Colonel Shoshani, responding. I read the first portion of that a moment ago, but continuing on with his statement, he said, following an initial assessment, it was determined that the forces had eliminated a Hamas military operative who took part in the October 7th massacre, along with 8 other terrorists from Hamas and Islamic Jihad. So the IDF statement related to this event was that at least 9 Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad terrorists were killed in vehicles without headlights or emergency signals. He says, after coordination between the IDF and international organizations, the evacuation of the bodies was carried out. It's truly not surprising that terrorists are once again exploiting medical facilities and equipment for their activities. When terrorists act in an active combat zone, we will do whatever it takes to protect our civilians and troops. He then updated this on April 3rd, 2 days ago, saying, quote, the incident from March 23rd, 2025, in which IDF forces opened fire targeting terrorists advancing in ambulances, has been transferred to the General Staff's fact-finding and assessment mechanism for investigation. Then turning over to Manny Fabian, reporting from the Times of Israel. Bit of a different tone struck here, where the IDF is saying more and more, hey, looks like something might have gone wrong here. We're diving in to find out exactly what happened. Fabian reports, quote, the IDF vows to thoroughly investigate the incident in southern Gaza's Rafah on March 23rd, during which troops opened fire on Palestinian ambulances and a fire truck. The bodies of 15 rescue workers were later said to have been found in a mass grave. The shooting towards the ambulance convoy in Tel Sultan on March 23rd is in the process of an in-depth inquiry. Quote, all of the claims, including the published documentation, will be thoroughly examined in depth to understand the conduct of the troops in the incident. And then Hamas put out a statement earlier today along with this video saying, quote, exposing yet another war crime in Israel's genocidal campaign. Newly uncovered footage recovered from a murdered Palestinian medic's phone in a mass grave containing 15 executed medical workers captures the deliberate, cold-blooded slaughter of clearly marked ambulances and civil defense teams with flashing emergency lights as they performed life-saving duties. This irrefutable visual evidence shatters the occupation's fabricated suspicious movement lies, proving systematic targeting of humanitarian personnel and constituting a premeditated murder under international law. We demand international justice for the victims of this heinous crime. Now, of course, we'll wait for more information to come out on this. Personal opinion offering up in this, what is going to be certainly a contested issue here, or a controversial issue. There are bad actors in any military. That's not out of the ordinary. We have them here in the United States. We have to be careful in any incident like this when something bad happens to not, the cover-up can often make the entire force look bad rather than just holding the bad actors accountable. If people made the determination here, whoever was on the ground opened fire and understood that they were shooting at ambulances and fire trucks, that individual, that chain of command needs to be held responsible. It does not automatically reflect across the entire force, or in this case, across an entire country. That said, we'll wait for more information to come out here. I just wouldn't, this is pretty damning evidence, I would say, at this point, based off of the video footage we've seen. So it's a little frustrating to see the Israeli Defense Forces come out with an explanation that appears right away to contradict that, to say that these vehicles did not have emergency lights on, when now we have footage showing those lights were blaring when gunfire opened. So if there, the initial statement there had been, we're looking into this, we don't know, we need to find out more, I think it would have carried more weight. But either way, it sounds like at the very least this investigation is starting, and hopefully we get more clarity into the responsible party and how they are going to be held accountable here soon. But again, all of this information will be linked in the description below if you'd like to dig into it further. That's all I've got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.